Hello and welcome to this spotlight episode on the Cycloped, a locomotive which was really a 2-horsepower machine. The Rainhill Trials of October 1829 were a seminal moment in the history of the railway locomotive. They'd been organised by the directors of the Liverpool and Manchester Railway to find the best form of motive power for their line, whether to operate it using locomotives or stationary engines and rope haulages. Of the entries to the trials, 4 were steam-powered: the Rocket, the Sans-Pareil, the Novelty and the Perseverance. But 2 were muscle-powered: the hand-cranked Manumotive of the eccentric American engineer and inventor Ross Winans, and the horse-powered Cycloped of Thomas Shaw Brandreth of Liverpool. The horse was domesticated around 5500 BCE, and it has been humanity's prime mover on the streets and in the saddle until the middle of the 20th century. Horses have also been used in industry to power machinery, such as horse gins used to wide loads of coals out of mine, where horses often went mad from walking around in circles day in and day out. Other than the horse gin, horse treadmills were used to power machinery, the treadmill and geared drive providing rotary motion for a range of machinery, including threshing machines. So the idea of a horse-powered railway locomotive was not so far-fetched. And indeed the technology of a horse powering a machine from a treadmill was not new either. What was revolutionary with the design of Cycloped was having a self-propelled horse treadmill. Whilst nearly 2 centuries later we may laugh at the Cycloped, we need to remember that the horse was ubiquitous in all walks of life. They were relatively cheap and they were plentiful. Locomotives were expensive, noisy, dirty, and unlike horses, also had a tendency to explode. Cycloped was taken seriously by the 3 Rainhill judges, and John Rastrick in his notebook notes that it was worked by 2 horses on a treadmill, and this is different from Thomas Shaw Brandreth's patent application, which shows only a single horse, and it is the patent application, of course, which has been used for many reconstructions of Cycloped. The treadmill was geared to the driving wheels, so that when the horse walked forward, the whole carriage moved forward. The driving wheels were 40 inches in diameter, and thanks to the gear train, was able to move at 10 miles per hour, with the horses walking steadily at only 3 miles per hour. Weighing 3 tons in working order, Cycloped was able to meet the trial stipulations of the Rainhill Trials, moving 3 times its own weight at 12 miles per hour. And, of course, it didn't make any smoke. The London Mechanics magazine thought Cycloped of, quote, rude construction, end quote. The stalls where the 2 horses stood were too narrow and cramped, which impeded their action. It did, however, predict that a better-made locomotive would have performed far better at Rainhill. One gets the impression the whole construction was somewhat rushed. Furthermore, there's no evidence to support the often quoted story of how one of the horses fell through the treadmill or panicked and galloped off, never to be seen again. Cycloped, however, was not the last horse-powered locomotive. The 1-horsepower Flying Dutchman operated in the United States in the 1830s, and the impressive 4-horsepower Impulsoria worked in Italy in the 1850s. Cycloped may have been an unusual entry at Rainhill, but the triumph of Rocket didn't mark the end of horses on the railways. Many horse-worked colliery lines and plateways existed throughout the 19th century. Horses were also used by the railways for shunting, and also to pull delivery wagons on the street. Horses were also motive power for the earliest street tramways. So that's been a quick look at Cycloped, a locomotive which, whilst not the main event, gave a good running at the Rainhill Trials, and was perhaps the only locomotive which be good for your roses. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you have, please like, share and subscribe and click the notification bell. If you feel able, you can also support Rail Story on Patreon, and I look forward to seeing you all next time on Rail Story.